And then there is something very critical that we can learn from Titus chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. Verses 2, it reads, "Let older men be moderate in habits, serious, sound in mind, healthy in faith, in love and in endurance." And then verses 3, "Likewise, let older women be reverent in behavior, not slanderers, not enslaved to a lot of wine, teachers of what is good." Verse 4, "So that they may advise the younger women to love their husbands, to love their children." And then verse 5, "To be sound in mind, chaste, working at home, good, subjecting themselves to their own husbands." Reason? So that the word of God may not be spoken of abusively. Notice something here, that the word chaste is being mentioned involving younger women and also who should teach it. Remember where I said that the value of a woman to a man is the womb, and the rest the man can do for himself. That is why body count to a woman will always matter to a man, and its equivalent is the number one need of a woman from a man, that is his ability to provide, which is supported by the spiritual law in 1 Timothy chapter 5 verses 8, which reads, "Certainly, if anyone does not provide for those who are his household, he has disowned the faith and is worse than a person without faith." Yes, the man is primarily obligated to provide for his family, and this is both mentally and spiritually. But because of our imperfections, men are no longer capable of being perfect heads, and women able to demonstrate perfect subjection. Is it not the duty of society to ensure that men have work so that they can be in a position to provide? The women need that anyway. Is it not the duty of the society to ensure that women remain chaste in conduct? That's what men need anyway. These things used to work even in traditional African society. But what changed? And marriages used to work. As a matter of fact, I looked at some recent statistic which cited that the average marriage age for both men and women is increasing. And this is due to factors like education and then financial stability goals. But my conclusion is this: marriages being delayed or not, people are still sexually active. We have normalized sin as a people. If indeed virginity could be lost inside marriage, the average could go significantly low. Okay, let's bring to our attention some of life's equations that we can pick from this discussion. Look at this illustration. From what I had captured about creation, it really showed that Adam had work, then command, and then the woman. What about Eve? She was first presented to the man, then the command probably through the man, and then work. And how can I confirm that? Genesis chapter 2 verses 22. "And Jehovah God built the rib that he had taken from the man into a woman, and he brought her to the man." Verses 23. "Then the man said, This is at last bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one will be called woman, because from man she was taken." Verses 24. "That is why a man will leave his father and mother, and he will stick to his wife, and they will become one flesh." And then when you go to Genesis chapter 3 verses 2 and 3, when Eve is now responding to the serpent, it clearly shows that she had learned the command too. Now, with this illustration in mind, it leads me to what I call Adam energy and Eve energy. The man's role in a relationship has not changed. Adam energy. Find work so that you can be able to provide for your family. Understand the command so that you can be able to teach your family. Then seek a wife. The woman's role, on the other hand, is to present herself with Eve energy. And this does not mean that you should not seek education if you've got an opportunity to do so. All it means is that there are things you're supposed to prioritize first before others. Eve energy demands that you focus on finding a husband first, especially when you're in your prime years, which is a very short time in a woman's life anyway. And that means you should prioritize knowledge on how to be a wife so that you can present yourself as one to potential husbands. And then after you've secured for yourself a husband, then what comes afterwards? How does a woman benefit from having Eve energy? She is valued by the man more. She benefits from having had choices and picking the best choice, which only happens in her prime age. It's easier for her to follow a man's lead as the head. She can decide either to work at home, to be a housewife, or to join a husband's work. In other words, she can find work that fits the marriage environment at her convenience, since she has a whole lifetime for it. But to get a husband, time is limited here. This is wisdom. But then the problems comes about when women are now presenting themselves with Adam energy for relationships instead of Eve energy. Feminism has taught women to get education, which in itself is not wrong, then to get their own money, and then later to seek a husband. This is Adam energy. Which man of sound mind, husband material, is looking for another Adam? Eve energy will force you to do things differently, whether you like it or not. It's part of the equations of life. Let me show you why in this next illustration. And let's observe the forces of nature in this male-female relationship pivot. As a matter of fact, let's consider the man and woman relationship pivot and see how the male and the female forces act on each other as the years unfold. The years I've captured here may not be accurate, but they'll help me bring the point home. The male at age 15. He is underage, and so the female figure in his life is probably the mother at the age of around 35 years. The female at age 15. She is also underage, and so the male figure in her life is probably the father, maybe at that age too. The male at age 20. He is now an adult by law, but since a man's value is in his ability to provide, he has not obtained that yet. But look at who can be attracted to him. Maybe an established woman in no man's land or heading towards it, and probably close in age or even the same age as the mother. This age may also consider men who have not established themselves yet. They might fall prey here. The female at age 20. She is also an adult and right in her prime years in the eyes of men. Look at who she can attract when she presents with Eve energy. Men get into their prime years. This is the age where prime has the opportunity to meet prime. Here, the likelihood of her being chaste and a virgin is higher depending on the background she has been brought up in. The modern woman at this age is busy equipping herself with Adam energy, ignoring advances by potential husbands, thinking she will find a husband later when she wants. Then we get to age 25. This is a period of short stability, but when an interchange of value starts to occur. The man at 25 is probably heading towards his prime years. His prime years are ahead of him, but he can still hook up with women in their prime, maybe up to his age, but mostly below 25 years. He knows he is going up in value, so he may seek women who may still have their prime years ahead of them. The woman at age 25. This is the period where her value in a man begins to shrink. At this point also, she might be working, but then feelings of desperation might start to kick in slowly, because indeed, no woman gets to this age without having had potential husbands approach her for a hand in marriage. This is the last woman who can say, I want a man who can make what I can make or more, because after this period, the shift occurs and you start attracting men with less, because you will have more yourself and you will start presenting with Adam energy to the men you want, and this will in turn make them ignore you. And then now we get to age 30. The male at age 30, his value to a woman is increasing, and it will keep on increasing if his income increases to the end of his life. The female at age 30, she is now heading straight to no man's land. Now she can no longer attract men in their prime. She can work with them, interact with them, but when it comes to a relationship, she has to become hypogamous, which is against her nature, and by default, she will join the I am happy single class. Okay, since a woman's value in a relationship with a man has a shelf life, is it not vital for her to equip herself with Eve energy and to ensure that she gets positive outcomes that she desires while in her prime? What feminism and the whole aspect of female empowerment has taught women is to go get education, which in itself is not bad, but it only becomes a hindrance when you prioritize it first before a husband, and then you get a job, and then you have your own money, and then now you can consider husband. You see, what you'll not be told is this. This will rob you of your prime years, especially at a time when men are to consider you as a wife. And another problem is that you as a woman cannot dictate to a man what he should consider as a wife. As a matter of fact, your value in a man has a shelf life. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, how many degrees and titles you have. These are laws of nature, and the right thing to do is to understand them and act accordingly. And since it's the man who decides who gets the ring, then it's your work as a woman to be what that man wants so that you can get the ring. Another equation of life is this. Considering the global statistics that I had captured, it showed that a woman's records are subordinate to that of a man's. You see that gap right there that I've represented with the letter M? I have come to my own conclusion that that gap is very key to male-female relationships. Marriages tend to lean towards this almost all the time. No woman wants to be married by a weak man who she has to provide for. No man wants to wife a woman who he finds to be superior. And marriages can still last when the woman stops working, the opposite not being the case most of the time. The red line is where respect is earned for the man, and the green line is where love is shown for the woman. And that is why males and females are able differently, with the men having more strength than the females. And never can a man miss an opportunity to have height over his woman, and this can be physical, it can be mental, or it can be both, which then defines the choice of a wife, which is also dictated by who the man is. My subject here is global mindset versus local mindset. I want in the end to talk about leadership, but then I felt the need to touch on an aspect that will add a layer to social intelligence. And I have tried to base my discussions on some spiritual law and natural law, and then linking it with observable reality, things that inform my convictions. I've got issues with this word equality between men and women with this meaning in mind. The state of being equal, especially in status, rights, or opportunities. I am a mathematics teacher and I use the equal sign a lot. I have taught mathematics and helped both boy and girl to achieve the grade A in mathematics at one time in the same school, but they still were not equal. I believe that we are different for a specific purpose so that we can interconnect. And just like the earth, there is the northern hemisphere having more land and less water compared to the southern hemisphere which has less land and more water, but they interconnect to make the beautiful planet called Earth. I also have huge concern with the state of the boy child in this current state of affairs. My own experience will tackle this in the whole aspect of the educational environment, the foundation for shaping societies. My name is Dr. Titus, and this is Atdocmathematics.